she did not. That is not what happened.
That is not what.
Okay.
Trump's Gestapo agents are at it again, folks, and this time, the disturbing and chaotic moment was caught on camera and leaked online for all to see. Trump's fascist crackdown and attempts to silence his opposition, because this happened to top Democratic lawmaker Jerry Nadler's aide. And we'll break down all the details in just a second, but this is so important to call out, folks, because we have to remember that when confronted with these things, MAGA and Trump's Gestapo will not admit their wrongdoing and will blatantly lie and bend the truth, even when directly presented with evidence. Remember this clip from a couple weeks ago?
What happened is that these members of Congress, including the mayor as well, and a mob of protesters, as there was a bus full of detainees going through the gate, they stormed the gate and actually entered the first security checkpoint.
Yeah, that was Ice Barbie's top aide lying through her fucking teeth and then getting immediately called out for it to her face.
This is the mayor, how he actually got into the facility, right? There's no bus. There's no mob of people storming in.
And on top of that, they'll just make shit up about themselves being the ones that were assaulted, like Nancy Mace did when she walked around in an arm brace after faking being assaulted by a trans activist who shook her hand too hard.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Capitol Police say 33-year-old James McIntyre is facing a charge of assaulting a government official. Earlier tonight, Mace posted on X that she was physically assaulted on Capitol grounds.
People at a foster youth advocacy event who saw the interaction quickly disputed Mace's assault characterization, saying the man had simply greeted Mace with a handshake before asking her to rethink her positions on trans youth. More on both of those incidents later in this video because they tie directly into the dystopian fascism that is going on. But let's talk about what happened with Jerry Nadler and his aide, and then show the fortunately leaked chaotic moment where his aide was assaulted. Here's what happened. So Jerry Nadler, he's a Democratic representative from New York. You've probably seen him. One of the more vocal Democrats that seems like they actually do something. His aide was arrested and video of the dramatic and chaotic incident was published online. The Gothamist recently reported, this was on Wednesday, I believe, that U.S. Department of Homeland Security police had handcuffed one of Representative Nadler's aides in the Congress member's Manhattan office, which is the same federal office building as an immigration's courthouse. Keep that in mind. In the video, which was shared with Gothamist and filmed by a person who was monitoring activity in immigration court, so it's not even body cam footage. Someone filmed this on their phone, fortunately. DHS officers entered Nadler's district office and accused staff members of, quote, harboring rioters. A Nadler staffer, which we saw a little bit of and we'll see more of in a second, is seen crying and being handcuffed. Another officer is at a door trying to enter a private area of the office where a staffer asks for a warrant. They go on to report that the DHS later said in a statement that one individual, the woman seen being handcuffed, had blocked police from performing a security check they intended to do based on information there were protesters in the lawmaker's office. Adding, later that day, protesters gathered outside of the federal building demonstrating against U.S. immigration and customs enforcement. It also notes an important detail. The aide wasn't arrested. They were later detained. But yeah, we're just going to assault people under suspicion of harboring protesters, quote unquote rioters. We're going to assault them without a warrant. And what, we just have to take the cops' word for it? While you're in an immigration court, while you're under the Trump regime? And while the person you're assaulting is Jerry Nadler's aide, who has been a vocal critic of Donald Trump, they weren't even charged with a crime. So before the stupid MAGA morons even try to spin this, as we'll see later in this video that they've already done, that is just fucking nonsense. With this out of the way, let's take a look at the video and then we'll break down more of just how egregious and dystopian this all is.
No, she did not. That is not what happened.
That is not what happened.
Okay.
What?
Hold on a second.
Give me your contact information right now.
No, I'm going to give you some speak to you.
Hey.
That's what I'm going to do.
We got you.
No.
I got you.
You're
okay.
I don't have to.
You're okay. You're okay. You're going to be okay.
I'm a federal officer. We're here checking on something. We have the right to check.
Can I see a warrant?
I'm not resisting. Stop resisting. You harboring rioters in the office. So there's not a problem. Let's walk inside. Let's walk through.
For what?
Let me see what's in here.
Oh, so it's your office?
Let's go. Come on.
You need to stay.
Hold it there. Hold it there.
believable. You're harboring rioters in this office. Let me see. No warrant. Meanwhile, this woman's crying in a corner for doing her job, and you're arresting her? You're detaining her? Sorry, she wasn't arrested, but she was physically assaulted. And look, we'll try to end this with some humor with the whole Nancy Mace situation in a second at the end of this, but it's anything but funny. For all the maggots who cry socialism and you guys want to let in illegal immigrants and shit, to sit there and watch Stalinist practices happening in our government offices against opposition party. I know these fucking morons love it because they would burn the world to the ground just to see the libs in a gulag. And I hate to say this because it is so infuriating, but it is understandable when you see the horse propaganda that they swallow harder than they swallow Trump's cock.
So how do you reconcile what you say happened and what the video showed of how the mayor got onto that facility's property?
Victor, it must have been a mistake by your team because last week, as soon as I was after this show, I sent your team the video where these individuals, these members of Congress and the mayor, were storming that facility. So
Trisha,
I'm sure you...
Sure, we're now playing the video that you posted after our interview. This is the video you posted. You claimed that Congresswoman LaMonica McIver body slammed someone. That was your term, not a term I introduced.
Yes.
I looked up body slam because I thought I knew what it meant when you sent videos that you claimed show a body slam. Oxford, Cambridge, those dictionaries say that it's a wrestling move where someone is lifted off the ground and slammed onto the ground. I don't see that in this video.
Victor,
so how do you...
Victor, body slammed, body rammed, punch, shoved, push, whatever you want to call it. If you all want
Not
to
what I
whitewash
want to call it.
look
What do
at
you
that
want to
right
call
there.
it?
Viewers,
That is a woman being presented with video evidence contrary to what she is saying. And yet she doubles down. This Trumpian method goes all across the quote-unquote Republican Party. I am furious about this. I'm going to end it on the Nancy Mace stuff because at least it's a little bit of a cathartic and lighthearted note here. But I implore you, if any of this, if the sanctity of our rights and our safety means anything to you and you would like to hear more of these stories and you are mad as hell and want to do something about it, then please drop a like, subscribe, support the work we're doing here at Really American on calling this out. And for fuck's sake, tell every maggot in your life to read a book on history.
You know, they'll do anything. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will do anything to control the narrative. And in fact, someone who is affiliated with the guy that assaulted me called into my office, actually two of my offices, my DC office and an office in South Carolina yesterday morning, hours after I was physically accosted, making the threat that all these pro-tranny people online were going to organize against me. And that's what they did yesterday.
The Capitol Police later identified the man Mace accused of the assault as James McIntyre, 33, a co-founder of the Illinois chapter of Foster Care Alumni of America. And his work advocating for foster youth has been lauded, and he was named the Public Citizen of the Year in 2019 by the National Association of Social Workers chapter in Illinois. And in her report, Mace accused McIntyre of taking, quote, her hand with both of his hands and shook her arm up and down in an exaggerated, aggressive handshaking motion. Absolutely terrifying stuff, folks, and hopefully Nancy Mace never has to interact with Donald Trump.
Not since this hot mess of a three-way has a handshake gotten so much attention, clocked at almost 19 seconds. This became the handshake that left the Japanese Prime Minister shaken.
Here you have someone pointing out that 3 witnesses went on record that said what they saw was nothing more than a normal handshake in response to Nancy Mace saying she'd received horrific death threats and faced relentless verbal attacks. Gabe Sanchez from Midas Touch also pointing out the burner account incident. Someone saying 3 things are true with this pic. Nancy Mace is a notorious liar for attention. Violence is never an answer. How did she put those pants on with a sprained wrist? And some of my personal favorites. Nancy Mace after a car with a Pride bumper sticker honked at her. And then Nancy Mace arrives in Congress after her, quote, assault. And then here's one worth noting. Nancy Mace voted against the Social Security Fairness Act, which would have restored Social Security benefits for over 2.5 million retirees that have unfairly lost their benefits they paid into due to outdated laws. Retweet to let her constituents know she voted against Social Security. I just thought I'd throw that one in there. And finally, hey, remember that time Nancy Mace claimed Antifa graffitied her home, and then people pointed out that the graffiti was all in her handwriting, and then she just never mentioned it again? Seems like there's a pattern to old Nance's behavior.